joining me. Really excited to work with you. Thank you so much for letting me come to your campus a few weeks ago. It's a fantastic facilities and grounds and really outstanding school. And we'd love to just hear a little bit in your own words about Parker and kind of who you are as a head and what the school was like holistically.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a pleasure having you on campus. So we're just about to kick off our 110th year, which for any East Coasters, that's still pretty young. But for California, that's not too bad. And Parker's really blossomed over the last couple of decades to where now, arguably it is the kind of marquee school in town. We've got some great schools here in San Diego. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of the community for now 22 years. Not only as head, but I started out as a teacher, spent some time in different administrative roles, and now I'm entering my 13th year as the head of the school. And I also have been able to experience the school as a parent. 3 girls that went through here. We call them lifers. They started when they were in kindergarten, and they could not be 3 more wonderfully diverse girls, and all of them really discovered so many good things about themselves through Parker, which is a testament to the school and its commitment to really just embrace the individual learner. So we're in a great place right now in terms of, when we look at all the indicators, financially, we're very healthy. Enrollment is incredibly strong. Retention is extremely high, and we don't take any of that for granted. Each year we realize that we've got to kind of earn our keep. But people love this place. They care deeply about this place, and they're looking forward to, like I am, to identify a colleague who's going to come join what I have come to appreciate as being a wildly talented, deeply dedicated, and actually a very enjoyable team.
And this new role for the team, head of operations, it's such a critical role for the school. As schools do get bigger and more complex like yours has, operations becomes bigger and complex. You're a 2-campus school, you have a lot going on. Give me just a little picture of sort of just what operations means to you and why this role, why now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gabe. This is not coming from a position of kind of a deficit. This is really kind of a asset-based decision. What I mean by that is Parker, as I said, is we're so fortunate that we're continuing to grow. We aren't growing in terms of enrollment, but we're growing in terms of our physical plants. We are going to be breaking ground on a $35 million athletic complex that's going to be housed on our Linda Vista campus. And as you mentioned, we've got the 2 campuses, and we're now going to be turning our attention to our historic campus in Mission Hills that was founded in 1912. And that's going to need a lot of time and attention. And we're going to initiate a master planning process for the Mission Hills campus. So we realize is that along with all of the kind of operations that we have in-house, we own our own transportation team, and we own the buses. We have all of our own maintenance crew. There are employees. So a lot of our auxiliaries are in-house. There's a huge opportunity for us to bring in a highly talented senior level person who can take full ownership of what I would argue is one of the most critical aspects of the school, because under operations, you're dealing with everything from the health and safety of the kids on a daily basis to future physical improvements on both campuses. And why now? It's because of the growth that's happening on Parker, and coupled with the fact that for every independent school now, attending to the physical spaces to ensure that every adult, every child, every visitor is safe. That in and of itself has become increasingly important in the role of operations in independent schools.
Well said, and indeed, it's a huge area of importance for schools. You touched upon that latest change in plant development in upper school, what I believe is called Phase 8, yeah. Which I presume, as a layman, there's a Phase 1 to 7, and really, it's been a multi-decade arc of really reimagining and rethinking. And you talked about how you'll be turning your attention to the lower school campus next. What have you and what has the school learned in that 20-year arc of reimagining A lot of schools haven't been through that, and how exciting for a head of operations to join a culture and institution that has been through a pretty big campus transformation. What are just some big takeaways that you feel are top of mind coming out of that project?
Well, probably the biggest thing that I have come to appreciate is the importance of space in terms of creating learning environments for kids. 20 years ago when we started this process, quite literally, our arts teachers, they were, both the visual arts and the performing arts, they were working out of old dormitories. The guitar teacher had carpet on the wall. And yeah, they could do an amazing job teaching these kids in those spaces. But when we put them in state-of-the-art spaces dedicated to their particular craft, I came to recognize what I call space as the third teacher, right? You need the student, you need the educator, but the space, and it really enhances the experience. And so that's why it's not, we're not just putting up buildings. Someone who's running operations, they're actually a part of the imagination of what these spaces need to not only look like, but how they function, right? And so we're now turning 20 years ago, we started this process, and Gabe, you're right. Phase 8 is following 7 other previous phases. The first 2 phases started in 1999 on the Mission Hills campus. And now 20 years later, we're completing arts, the academics, now the athletics on the Linda Vista campus. And it's been 20 years since we paid our attention to the historic campus. And so now you're not just going to, be on that campus and saying, okay, do we need to, fix the HVAC, and do we need to, knock out a wall here or there? It's what has changed in terms of how kids learn and what is critical about the spaces in which they learn, and how can we incorporate that into our design and imagination of the next iteration, which is going to be with us the 30 to 50 years. So my hope is that this is somebody who understands operations intimately, but brings with them kind of a creativity and an imagination that will help facilitate that master planning process on the Mission Hills campus.
Having met a lot of your senior administrators, they are all in their own ways amazingly creative and talented, and they're all, I can see, really able and eager to contribute and be a part of a master planning and reimagination process. When you think about you, Kevin, and what you look for when you hire for your team, and also how that team functions, just give potential candidates a little window into the Parker leadership team, what it's like to work directly with you, and kind of what type of mindset or approach is going to really be harmonious with and what I would call an A team of administrators.
Yeah, the hierarchy, if you will, is pretty flat, right? The way I run it, it's as head of school, and then I've got what I call my leadership team, and that's all the leaders of the critical areas of the school. And of course, the head of operations will be a critical part of that leadership team. And so we meet on a weekly basis, and I don't expect the head of operations only to comment about something that has to do with things within his or her purview. I expect them to be the lead. I expect them to be the expert. I expect them to, to own the responsibilities that fall therein. But if we're talking about other things, about targeted marketing in enrollment, I want that operations person to feel free that they can comment, because at the end of the day, they may be the operations person, but they work at a school, and what we all have in common is the goal, and the goal is to create learning environments for kids. And so that goes my advancement direct, the head of advancement, head of finance, all of us will weigh in on that. Granted, the division heads, they're the experts in the curriculum and the education, but anybody who's going to tell me that physical space doesn't matter in terms of kids learning shouldn't be in this position. The other thing I love for people is I want someone who has real high IQ, because you don't get to spend your days in an office and avoid other adults and kids. You're going to be interacting with people, so you have to be relational. You've got to be collegial, right? That's really important, and you got to be comfortable in kind of leaning in some tougher conversations, because the way I look at it is, our leadership team meetings, that's kind of the war room, right? Because if we're going to make a wrong decision, I want us to realize it in that room before we go public with it, right? So we need to make sure that we, when we challenge one another, it comes from a place of, of putting the ego aside and saying, look, I don't think this is best for Parker now. I think it's best for kids. And people will challenge me as I head. And thankfully so, because at the end of the day, I'm ultimately responsible. And so I don't need to go out there, and find out that, oh my God, why didn't somebody tell me that I couldn't see was right in front of my face?
Well, and I think right in front of the faces of all folks at Parker are the students, and you talked about that importance. Last question, and just to really directly connect operations to the students. This role is overseeing so many critical areas, and we've talked about a few of them. Health and safety, and the grounds, and we got transportation, and many more facilities, and helping to really just play a direct role in both the continued improvement of how those different areas are run, and also connecting to change management and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's the students.
Mhm.
And talk about, for you, how you see operations sort of oversight and student learning, student outcomes, and just the student experience intertwined to hopefully help candidates recognize the work that they'll be doing, its direct impact on the mission of the school.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the way that I would want this person to operate is, while the kids may not see it, this person has to see everything through the lens of the child. So in other words, they have to understand, like, they're ultimately responsible. And this sounds a little crazy, but it's true. They're ultimately responsible for the air the kids breathe. They're responsible for the physical and safety and well-being of the kids, right? And those are going to be things that nobody pays attention to. Everybody takes for granted. And so in many ways, it's a thankless position. But hopefully this person is like, they'll get their accolades, but they need to know that they're not just maintaining buildings. They're not just, running buses. They're not just, putting up fences around, or whatever the case may be. Is they're literally, they are caretaking. They are attending to the home of all of these kids and all of these adults. So to me, it's, it's arguably one of the most important roles on campus. And, I've seen different models. This is not a director of facilities. This is not a project manager. This is a senior level head of operations, which is really making sure that from the moment the child arrives to the moment the child leaves, that they are safe.
I've been sort of comparing to, like, it's like when you're in a great airport, because how it's not just the behind the scenes efficiency, but just the customer experience. And this
Yeah.
person, it's, you're not the airline, you're not sort of running the actual flights, but you can tell when there's an amazing facility that's thought about its customers first, and the experience that the customers have from start to finish is
Yeah.
just above all else, amazing. And
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say too is, it's got to be a person who, and I learned this when we were doing this last construction piece, because we were putting in an aquatic center, and none of us had ever really seen aquatic center, and we all thought, oh, it's pool's a pool. But the architect said, no, let's get in the car. And we went up to LA, and we went through San Diego, and we visited 6 different sites, and we saw 6 different ways to create an aquatics experience. And so then my perspective opened up wildly. So this is a person who, it's not just they're going to say, like, I know how to do this because I've done it before. It's got to be someone who say, I want to go out and I want to see what's happening now. I want to see what's current, what's relevant, what's cutting edge, what's state of the art. And then I want to incorporate all those elements of what we can do here at Parker. And so that's really important, that they're always thinking that way, not just replicating what they've seen or just doing what they've been told.
yeah. And what's exciting is that just in that story you just told, is that a lot of folks at Parker have been going through this before. So this person is not going to be doing it alone, or having to kind of quote, grab the bull by the horns. They'll have a team from the board to you and the leadership team, and to faculty, staff, and students who have been through transformation. And really, you can leverage that those insights as you turn your attention to the historic campus, but also continued change that undoubtedly will be happening in the upper school campus too. So
it's great. It's good. It's a good place to work too, by the way.
it is, I can tell, and having been there, I can say it's just a fantastic campus and a fantastic school. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And really looking forward to working with you.
Thanks, Kate. Appreciate it.